Worst dance of all time? Weekly Q&A, guys. Um, I don't have anything for you specifically right now, so let's just get into the questions. Hope you guys are doing all right. It's been a long weekend. The world's a little bit crazy. Lots of businesses are struggling. Some are doing really, really well. And I know you guys have some big challenges ahead of you, just given everything that's happening in the world. So let's figure some shit out right now. So Danny asked, "Hey guys, I could use some advice from you. I started my business officially on May 1st, 2020. Had a few clients since, small project. Each one was a referral from when I was a web designer before the transition to marketing. I am also a stay-at-home father to three wonderful daughters, 3, 2, and 2 months. I'm having internal struggles with whether it is feasible to try and grow an agency while raising small kids at home. Thanks in advance for your help." Well, let's just say, Danny, I feel you 1,000%. I have two daughters, not quite three, and they're both very young, and it is a challenge. I'll tell you some of the things I've had to figure out. So I'll tell you the two biggest challenges that I've faced. One is that I'm tired all the time, and two is that I very rarely get a block of time uninterrupted. So what I've learned to do, and this is probably the most important thing, is really, really, I spend a lot of my day, even when I'm with my kids, figuring out what I'm going to do in that hour or 90 minutes so I can actually get some shit done. Because if you have to run an agency where you need 8 hours a day, you're just not going to have it. So it's up to you whether it's feasible. But there's a really amazing book called The Theory of Constraints. I haven't read it, but I've got a lot of the advice secondhand. And one of the things I've heard from the theory of constraints is you look at what are your constraints. So for me, I'm like, I have 90 minutes and I'm tired, right? So, like, what can I do in 90 minutes while tired? And you work around those constraints that you have and work with them and think. So I think about, like, how can I get other people to do things? What's really, really important? Which tasks can I eliminate? How can I show up? So, like, to give you an example, to do this Facebook Live, which I love doing for you guys, um, I made sure that I had all the questions and stuff gathered and organized before I show up so that I could just hit record. My oldest daughter's going to sleep right now, but it's definitely a challenge, Danny. And when they're young, it's just going to be hard, but it can definitely be done. So I want to give you that hope because we're growing a coaching business and an agency in the middle of a recession. I'll tell you, the big piece that has made that a lot easier, and I've harped on this a lot if you're part of this group, is if you have an offer that's easy to say yes to, it'll make all your prospecting, your selling, and all those things easier. So that's where I would focus like 90% of my energy. Get the offer right, everything else will become a lot easier. Michael, when you are emailing or messaging to a prospect to try to set a call, do you find giving two choices of day or time or using something like Calendly to allow them to see your available time and pick one more effective? If it were me, I think I prefer Calendly, but in practice, most people don't. I'll give you two answers to that, Michael. The first is just Calendly. If you're scheduling appointments, um, it's just easier. Just let them pick the time that works for them. Don't try and like go back and forth. You can lose deals just going back and forth trying to pick a time. As we're Calendly, they just pick the one that works for them. So if you have something like that, or schedule once, I think it's called Once Hub now. Use that. Acuity is another one. But here's what I'm going to tell you. And this is something I don't talk about much, but we do most of the closing in our agency without a call. And when we do have calls, I call it the 6 minute strategy session because it's usually just get on a call. They have one last question. Okay, anything else? No. And then they're ready to get started. And so a lot of that can actually be eliminated with a really good offer and the right pre sale system. And then you don't have to do all of it the way everybody else does it. So I would suggest think about how you can actually eliminate the call altogether because it can definitely be done. Jack, what are you mostly using to currently prospect slash outreach? Now, Jack, this is kind of a loaded question because it implies that that where you prospect matters. I'll tell you my experience of this. It really depends on where your market is. So, to give you an example, when I first started working with lawyers, I noticed there weren't really many LinkedIn group or any Facebook groups for lawyers, and a whole lot of lawyers weren't being very lawyery on Facebook. But on LinkedIn, they were used to it because that's how they network with each other. And so I just went where they were. And But that doesn't mean LinkedIn is the one and only way to do it. If I was trying to connect with e-commerce business owners, I would go to the Facebook groups they communicate with. Now, a lot of people deal with like general contractors and roofers. Some of those guys don't even know how to check their email. So if you're not like either cold calling them on the phone or like directly outreaching via their website, you're probably not going to find them. So the answer to that isn't a one size fits all. It's just go where your market is. So whoever you're trying to reach, where are they? Go where that place is. If they're on a forum, go to the forum. If they're on Facebook, go to Facebook. If they're consuming free information on YouTube, then go there. But I don't want to give you like this one answer because it really depends on who you're trying to reach. Ferdy, do your friends, relatives understand what you're doing? Absolutely not. Um, I've been doing this since 2007, and my family says like, still like, so what do you do for money? Like, they just don't get it. Actually, one of my sisters, recently read my book and has like at least a small idea. So there's progress. In 13 years, 14 years almost of doing this, one person has a rough idea of what it is that I'm doing. Chase, what's the easiest way to increase website traffic? Simple answer is to pay for it. Now, having said that, I'm going to tell you something that not most people pay enough attention to. Is a lot of people get really obsessed about what are my traffic numbers, and I would tell you it is far more important to attract the right clicks and the right people in the right state of mind than it is to have 10,000 people. Like I see websites before. My actual first website was a website about real estate investing. I partnered with a guy who created a really cool course, and we sold the course online, and I did a bunch of SEO. And we were generating between 60 and 100,000 visitors a month. And I was lucky to make a few $100 on that amount of traffic, which at the time was still pretty amazing to me because I was like, people are paying me on the internet. But I could do that same thing now with like 4 clicks, right? So it's not necessarily about volume, it's about getting the right people. And there's a hidden metric that says, are the right people clicking? And if you're not hitting that, then the raw numbers don't really matter. So don't get too focused just on traffic is all I'm saying. Rick, what Black Friday / Cyber Monday deals have you bought? Are you planning to buy this year? Rick, I'm probably a bad person to ask because I don't do any Black Friday stuff or Cyber Monday, and I don't buy any of those from anyone else. Like a discount is not a reason for me to buy something. Like I either want it or I don't. So that's just kind of how I am personally. Now, having said that, if I was working more in the e-commerce space, I would be like swinging for the fences on Black Friday. But personally, because a lot of the stuff I do, like I can tell you like which mentors I'm gonna hire and so forth like that. Like I can tell you in advance, so it's like I'm not swayed by some Facebook ad. So I'm probably the worst person to ask. Having said that, though, it's a really good time if you're especially in the e-commerce space. Emily, we've taken on a client to support with all aspects of her online marketing. One of the areas I take care of is Facebook ads. We have a huge problem though, in that the client has been banned from Facebook's ads. She's never even actually used it, but she's been banned permanently, and she was the only admin in her business manager. She tried to make a new Facebook ad account and a new business manager, and it was instantly banned. Emily, I've been seeing a lot of variations of this post. You're not the only one that Facebook's just on like a mass purge. And that's why I've said from the beginning, most people didn't understand why I said this, but I was doing this years ago when people had 100% of their traffic on Google. And they're like, why would I ever get off of Google? Google's making me so much money. And then I watched as Google started doing updates. First there was Panda, and then there was Penguin, and like Hummingbird, and they just came and they came and they came. And I watched as certain businesses got completely eliminated. I also saw this before that with like paid ads with Google where they just kicked people out and they lost their entire gravy train. So there's a couple of things. One is you always want to be thinking about turning whatever paid traffic you're using into your own audience that you control, your own email list, your own following, your own text message list, doesn't matter, your own direct mail list, just some list that you control that you can reach out to whenever you want. So if you don't do that, the platforms can always risk putting you out of business. Secondly this is every reason in the world why you shouldn't just be 100% dependent on Facebook ads and why you should be at least have one other media. I would suggest if you want to be a real business, you got to have at least 5. And then the third thing is I've had success with when you create a new business manager, you got to do it from a different account, different IP, and has to have a different credit card on file. So you're going to need like a friend or somebody to set it up, or that client's friend in order to help them set up their account. But it's not going to work if you try and do it from the same thing. I'm on my like sixth account right now, so they get lost. But overall, like you want to be thinking bigger picture. How do I convert that traffic into my own, and how can I diversify so that if Facebook shuts down, yeah, it would suck and be inconvenient, but it shouldn't be the catastrophe that it is for you right now. Andrew, anyone else having to get all of their ads reviewed after being rejected for no reason? I'm kind of getting worried it might get us banned accidentally. Andrew, that's just Facebook. This is why, by the way, we're doing in our agency like far more direct mail, because I just got sick of dealing with this ad doesn't meet our standards and blah blah blah, and all the bullshit reasons. Like Facebook bans you if you use the word "you" too much in an ad, or if you mention a problem. Um, and I just got sick of trying to work around their platform. I still use it, but a lot more sparingly. They don't get as much of my money as they used to get. They used to represent 90% of our ad spend, as we're now they're like 10 or 20. But yeah, that's happening to a lot of people, Andrew. I don't really have a good answer for you other than what I just said to Emily, which is start converting that to your own traffic and be less dependent on the Zuck to build your business. James, anyone else has CPMs through the roof? James, it depends on your niche, but yes. So there's three things that'll make your CPMs go up that have nothing to do with your actual ads or your creatives. One is an election. I've been through a few of these now. Every time there's an election, your ads will pretty much tank, and everybody's ads will tank. Two, Black Friday, Cyber Monday, this time of year, if you don't run ads that are conducive to that, a lot of other people are, so you're in an auction space and they're not going to hear a lot of you. And then third is fourth quarter, everything like before Christmas, your ad costs are just going to go up and people are going to complain you got bad leads, and it will reset itself to some kind of normality in January, but you just got to expect higher costs this last quarter. It's just how the game is, my friend. All right, sorry, I'm just looking. Matthew says, I'm just putting all this on one line. I'm reading these from a text file, and it's a little weird. I probably should have formatted it better. Matthew, good day. Hope everyone is well. I recently launched Facebook and Google ads after redesigning a client's website in the skincare industry, eczema. So far, we are seeing subpar performances with Google ads and Facebook. By subpar, I mean that we have spent $400 on Google ads for 0 sales, 3 add to carts, and 180 clicks. The search term looks qualified, but we are seeing a high bounce rate of 86% average time of 18 seconds. On Facebook, we spent $120 for 44 clicks, 0 add to cart, 81% bounce rate, 26 seconds average time on the website. The product sells at about 50 bucks, so spending this much without seeing any sales is starting to get to me. I think it could be something with the page speed, the high price point compared to competitors, or even the website design. I'm not sure. That being said, I was wondering if any kind souls in this group would be willing to share their point of view. So Matthew, I did take a look at your website, but I want to kind of contextualize this so anybody can listening to understand. So one of the things that you have to learn to develop in this business is like a lack of personalization. What I mean by that is like you don't make the results mean something about you. I'm getting frustrated, you mentioned, or something like that. It's starting to get to me. You're going to be wrong with ads more often than you're going to be right. And that's just like a normal part of the deal. And so, by the way, $400 is not a lot of money spent. But having said that, seeing what you're doing, if you're getting clicks and then they're not adding to cart and they're not converting, like 100% of that evidence is telling you the problem is your page. So there's a couple of things that could be going on. And the most common issue I see is just something called ad congruence, which means you say something to get them to click, and the page they click is different. So for example, they click your ad and it says green widgets, and then you get there and it says better machine performance. And your widgets may create better machine performance, but what got them to click and the continuity are just different. So if those things don't match up, you're just not going to convert people. But more than likely, it's just your offer, man. And having actually looked at your individual page, I can tell you your eczema stuff. It doesn't really tell me why it's different or even how it works. It just says it's got all natural ingredients and things like that. But if I'm trying to cure eczema, the argument you have to make for me is that it's going to work. And that's the last of the questions. And I also, as for the first person, Danny, I have a crying baby, so I'm going to go put her back to sleep. Much love for you guys, and I will see you next week.